Awesome to have you here today. I'm joined with our Director of Online Instruction, Quentin Patterson for Top Speed Golf, and really sharp guy. He has something that's called office hours. So 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, for an hour, he's on there fielding people's questions. So if you're a member of Top Speed Golf, you can get on every single day, ask questions about your golf swing, ask anything golf related you want to. This is going to be your guy that can help you out. What's one of your common ones that you get kind of as it relates to distance?
Well, a lot of people ask me, they say, I'm not flexible at all. How in the world am I supposed to get this big full shoulder turn that you talk about so that I can get some distance? So what do you think about that?
And that's one of the things is one of our 5 keys is get that power turn, really get loaded up. Well, if I'm stiff as a board, maybe I'm getting up a little bit in age, I get out of my car and I feel like I can barely swing at all, how am I supposed to make this big turn? Now there's one thing that's very important that you do. Click that subscribe button. I have a ton of great videos coming out for you this year. I want to help you with your game, and the only way you're going to get notified when I release those new videos is if you're a subscriber. While you're at it, click that thumbs up button, hit the notifications bell, and post your comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Well, first let's talk about how important is this? You know, what if I don't make a very big turn? How far am I going to be able to hit it then? So I'm going to set up to this golf ball here, and I'm going to talk very briefly about this, but we're going to hit on this later. I'm going to set up with both my feet square to this golf ball, straight ahead like this, and I'm going to keep my left heel on the ground in my backswing. I'm not going to make a very big shoulder turn, and I'm going to try to hit it hard. I'm going to try to hit this ball as far as I can, and let's go ahead and see what I can do. I mean, I swung hard at that one. I actually hit it really good, nice and straight. So it's not that you can't hit any good shots doing this. It's just a lot harder to hit it very far. So Q, what was the distance on that one?
Distance was 258.5.
Okay.
And then the club head speed was 106.2.
So 106 club head speed, 255, 256?
Yeah, 258.5 is the distance.
Okay, so it's not that that's bad distance. It's just that I have so much more in the tank. What if you're a player that's, maybe you're maxing out at 90 miles an hour swing speed? Well, maybe you have a lot more than 90 in the tank and you just don't realize it because we're doing these things incorrectly. So there, not a very big shoulder turn, 106, 258. If you're hitting at 220 and swinging 90, the same thing applies here for you. As you start to swing a little bit faster, swing a little bit better, you're gonna see your speed increase also. So here, I'm gonna flare out my back foot. Again, we're gonna talk in a minute why this is really a big key here. And then as I go to the top, I'm gonna make this big shoulder turn, and I'm gonna do something with my left heel to really make this easier. Let's see how much farther I can go when I do this the right way. And I actually even mishit that one a little bit. It's down the left side of the fairway. It'll be fine. Probably not my best swing, but I guarantee you it went a lot farther and I swung a little faster.
Yeah, so distance was 293.1.
So picked up about 40 yards.
And the club head speed was 120.3 on that one.
Okay, so 14 miles an hour and about 40 yards more distance by doing these 2 tricks that we're going to talk about. The first one is one that I'm going to go over, and it's to do with your left heel. Now, when I'm trying to make this big shoulder turn, whenever I'm rotating my shoulders in the backswing, if I keep my left heel firmly on the ground, I don't lift my left heel at all, that's going to limit how much my hips turn. So if my left heel's on the ground and I rotate my hips, that's about as far as I can go. I can barely get to 45 degrees. If you're one of these players that's tight, you're not even going to be able to get to here. Now when I rotate my shoulders with my heel on the ground, that's about as far as I can go. I really feel tight through my midsection here and I'm locked up. Well, I need to loosen up these hips. When my hips loosen up, now my shoulders loosen up and they can turn more. So in that first example, left heel on the ground, hips are turning maybe 45, shoulders are turning right at 90, but I'm super stretched out. What happens when I lift my left heel just slightly now is that rotates, that loosens up my left hip. I can now turn my hips a little bit more, and now I can turn my shoulders a little bit more also. So I'm getting an extra 10 or 15 degrees more rotation. I don't feel any tighter. That's the big key here. A lot of times when players think they need to turn more, they think I'm asking them to stretch more. I'm not asking you to stretch anymore. You shouldn't even feel that tight at the top of the backswing. You should feel fairly relaxed, but you have to move your hips and your feet in a way to make that easier. I feel completely relaxed here, whereas if I put my heel on the ground, I feel really tight there. So it's gonna loosen you up. So that's piece number one. When you're looking at that left heel, I'm not talking about lifting it up like this. I'm just talking about barely letting that come off the ground. That loosens the hips, which gets a bigger shoulder. What's we were talking about this earlier, and you had a really good tip also for this. What do you recommend people do?
Yeah, so I really like the heel coming off the ground because that loosens up the hips. That's one of the biggest issues for getting a big shoulder turn, is just the hips not turning enough. So another reason why you may not be turning the hips enough is because of the internal rotation of your legs here. So if I were to lift up my leg and try to turn my leg in as much as I can, you can see I have actually fairly limited here. I can only turn my leg in about 20 degrees. So when I'm turning in the backswing, my leg is internally rotating. So if I have a limitation there, I'm gonna have a hard time turning my hips enough. So one thing that you can do is turn that foot out. Clay talked about that earlier when he hit the shots, is that he turned this trail heel out. Now what that does is that eases up on that internal rotation. Now, a lot of people ask me, how much can I turn my foot out? Now you can do as much as 45 degrees. If you do more than that, you might be kind of falling forward a little bit in your backswing. You're gonna lose your balance a little bit. But to know how much you should, so for myself, like I said before, I can only turn my leg in about 20 degrees. You can stand up at home right now and just stand up and try to turn your leg in and see how much you're turning that in. The average hip turn on tour is about 50 degrees. That's typically where I like to see people turning their hips to. So for me, since I can only internally rotate my leg about 20 degrees, for me it'd be good to turn my foot out 30 degrees. So 50 degrees, where I want to get to, minus 20 degrees, which is how much I can internally rotate my leg, that gives me 30 degrees. So when I set up, I want to angle this out 30 degrees. So that way I get that freedom of range of motion there. So you show me, how much can you turn your leg in?
So if I lift my foot up, I can go probably closer to 45
so he's a little bit better than me.
So I'm a little more, I have a little more internal hip. And basically what that means is my femur attaches to my hip socket up here. As I'm rotating my foot in, what's happening is I'm turning my femur in from my hip socket. So it's the exact same thing as a golf swing. A lot of people don't think about it this way, but if I have my foot straight forward and my hips are straight forward, if I keep my foot pointing this way toward the camera and I rotate my hips 45 degrees, I have taken my femur, the ball socket there, and rotated it in like this. That's the top of my backswing position. So if my feet are square and I'm like Q, and I really have a struggle doing that, he's only going to be able to get about 20 degrees of hip turn without his right hip feeling like it's on fire. It's really tight. So we got to have that little cheat to turn the foot out. Now for me personally, I agree with you. I like to have it a little bit flared out. Even though I can rotate in 45 degrees, I still like to turn it out maybe a good 10, 15 degrees just because it feels even better. Now I feel like I can really rotate to the top and I have no problem at all. So that's one of the best drills and probably something you're not going to hear very often. Now let me go ahead and go through this and let's actually talk about a real drill that we can do to ingrain this. It's all one thing to say, hey, these are good ideas. Let's talk about how to get this to feel natural for you. So what I would do here, let's start it and setting up with a club across your shoulders. Instead of having those feet forward, I'm gonna go ahead and flare my toes out a little bit. This is what feels normal to me. This feels comfortable. So I'm probably about 20 degrees flared out. Now, if you're really limited in your right hip, you're gonna wanna go ahead and make that up to 45 degrees flared out. That way, when you turn your hips, now all of a sudden your femur and your hips are going the same direction. You're basically just standing like this at the top of your swing to where your foot's forward. So I'm gonna flare out my foot. I like to flare out both of them a little bit. That feels a little more comfortable to me. As you go to the top, again with this club across your shoulders, I want to go ahead and let that left heel come about an inch off the ground. I'm not going crazy with it, just a little bit is enough to loosen up my hips. Well, between my left heel and my right foot, now my hips are really rotating. Very easy to make that big turn. And when I rotate my shoulders, now I can get past 90 really, really easily. If you do this yourself, I have not seen anybody. I've had people with fusions in their back, fusing 5 vertebrae together. Everybody I've ever tested can get a 90-degree shoulder turn. I've never had one person that couldn't get at least to here when they use the lower body correctly. Unless your thoracic spine is fused, you're gonna be completely fine doing this. Now, we're gonna do about 30 reps just with a club across the shoulders. So work on those same things in the backswing. There's the big turn. And then here's the key. Finish that power turn. Come all the way around. If I make this great big turn and then I just kind of fall into impact and don't have any power, I'm not gonna hit it very far. I wanna go ahead and finish that all the way into where my right toe is barely touching the ground, my hips have rotated around, and again, the same thing. It comes down to your feet. If my left foot opens up and my right foot swivels around, I can get this good full finish. If I keep my feet facing forward like this, I can't finish my swing. It's impossible. There's just no way to do it. So you have to let the feet rotate all the way to that good full finish too, and make sure you get that right shoulder going as far down the fairway as you can. Again, if you're not very flexible, that may not go as far as other players, just get as good as you can. 30 reps of the club across your shoulders, another 30 reps practicing the same thing without a golf ball. Big turn back and then big turn all the way on through. Then you're ready to hit the golf ball. I'm telling you, you're gonna add some serious power when you start doing these drills. Now what we've been talking about here today is the power turn. That's one of the 5 fundamentals we teach in the Top Speed Golf System, and the reason we teach those 5 fundamentals is because they're really important. You want to hit it far, you have to have a power turn. That's why all pros are making a good power turn. Now I have one of my best videos on the power turn, a preview that's going to pop up here in a second. Just click the card that pops up on your screen. If you don't see that card, go ahead and click the link down below in the description. You'll get instant access to that video, and I guarantee you, you're gonna start driving it farther. But with the correct technique, we can all hit it with really good distance without a lot of muscular effort. And it all starts out, the very first thing you have to do is get a good, powerful turn to load up the body. And it's not only in golf, but in all sports, we have to rotate the body at least 90 degrees with the shoulders as you swing to the top. Preferably, we can go even a little bit past 90 to really get loaded up. That's gonna allow us to have a lot of power. So we don't just have to look at golf for this. Let's actually look at other sports. They're rotating their body, then they're coming forward. So we have to get that load. We have to get this big shoulder turn to be able to create power in the golf swing. So in this series of videos, I'm gonna show you exactly how to do that. That's one of the first keys to getting power, and we're all gonna get at least a 90-degree turn, if not more than that. I think you'll be surprised at what you can do. So let's go ahead and get started with the next series of videos, and I'm gonna show you how to get this big, powerful turn. All right guys, so before we go, let's take a look at this in action with some of the top pros. Now here we're looking at Adam Scott, and you're going to see as he rotates to the top, good full shoulder turn. This is pretty typical of what I see with the top pros, a little past 90. Those guys are working on their flexibility, so sometimes they can get to 100 or even 110 degrees.